Hey, before we get into today's episode, if you're a podcast host or guest, listen up. I've produced over 200 podcast episodes and guested on 50 podcasts just in 2025 alone. And let me tell you, nothing grows your audience or builds trust faster than being in front of the right listeners. That's why I created my podcast tour offer. I'll help you map out your topics, strategize your message, and find you the most aligned podcasts and audiences to get you and your business in front of. So if you've ever thought, I just wish more eyes were on my work, this is your sign. Let's get you on a podcast tour. You can find all the details in the show notes. Just look for podcast tour. Now let's dive into today's episode. Welcome back. I have a special guest today, Lindsay Dollinger. She is a lead gen expert and podcaster. Her show is called Passports, Profits, and Pixie Dust. And I'm super excited to have you on. I got to be on yours. So welcome to the show. I'm glad we're doing this swap.
Yeah, I'm so excited, Candace. Thank you so much.
I know a little bit about your story, but I always love to ask how you became an entrepreneur because everyone's story is so different. I know we both started in a network marketing field and moved from there. Can you give me that snapshot story of how you got into entrepreneurship?
Long story short, my mom passed away in 2015 from breast cancer, a really long battle with that. And I just felt very lost. I was very close with my mom. I'm still very close with my whole family. And I just felt like a big piece of my identity was gone because she was diagnosed when I was 10. Pretty much my entire life, was in the back of my mind, my mom was sick. And so that happened. My friends didn't really understand me anymore. I didn't really understand me anymore. And I was going to a gym, a Brick House Cardio Club, which I don't even know if they still have them anymore. And the woman who owned it was a Beachbody coach. What was then Beachbody? And she invited me to come hear about being a coach. And I loved her. I loved her energy. I loved a lot of the women at the gym, and a lot of them were coaches as well. And I was very anti-network marketing. I had just heard the stories. I didn't really know exactly what it was. Thought it was a pyramid scheme, and went to the meeting about it. And I read that contract. Let me tell you what, Candace, I read that contract like no one has read a contract before, because I'm like, there's no penalties if I quit, all this stuff. And I'm like, what would happen if I just tried? So I joined, quickly loved it, quickly became a top producer on my team. I earned the trips, all those things. And it was almost something for me to pour myself into that allowed me to escape from reality a little bit, because I was building my business online mostly. And that was also my first time reading personal development books. And the personal development piece, I still to this day will say, I think that is what pulled me out of the depression after my mom passed. I read the book, The Energy Bus, and it's such a short book. And I haven't read it again since then. I'm almost afraid to, because I'm afraid it won't be as good as, it hit the first time I read it. So I read that book and I was like, okay, we're getting old Lindsay back and she's going to be better than ever. And that's really where I started. I started with network marketing, like you mentioned, and then very similar to your story, just pivoted and grew over the years. And now some of my clients are network marketing clients, but a lot of them are not, doing entrepreneurship in different ways. And I really honed in on teaching people which lead generation style works for them, because it's not a cookie cutter experience for people, and help you grow your business your way.
Oh my gosh, our stories match up so well. Not only were they the same network marketing, personal development was also my first time while I was in that. And it brought me back to who I was before I had 3 babies in a row and was feeling really so different, but the same reason why I joined too. So super interesting. Okay. So if we just dive right in, then you said there's different styles to lead generation. Tell me about that, because I don't know that I see people sharing that very often, but this definitely would fit what I lean towards of not one size fits all. So what are the different styles?
So I have made them into 4 categories, and the categories definitely can intermingle. And I do tell my clients, to me, a well-rounded strategy includes a little bit of all 4 in some sort of way. My 4 areas are a social media maven is what I call it, social media maven. So you live for the social media, you love the social media life. I'm thinking right now of my sister who hates social media with a passion. And so this is actually where it started coming up for me, because at first my clients were very heavily social media based. Then I started adding in these clients, and it was stumping me because they were like, I don't want to be on social media, or I don't enjoy social media. And I'm like, what? I love it. I love doing that stuff. So that's where it all stemmed from. So social media maven is one type. Live event leader is another, which a lot of people think this has to be in-person events. It definitely can be, but it can also be your workshops, those activation events that you are providing for people, challenges. You could even argue maybe podcasts would be that sort of stage for you, but where you are communicating with other people in a more personal way. And it doesn't have to be on social media. It can definitely be offline. So that's live event leader. The third type is email marketing prodigy. So this is, you are the email marketer. Like your email is your community. And I'm thinking like right now of my friend Paul, who has over 100,000 email subscribers. That's where he started. Now he has since grown the social media side as well and has, I think, over 1 million social media. It's just nuts. But email is his bread and butter. So for him, it would be email. And then the fourth type is the automation ace, where you are setting up all the automations that there are, the email welcome sequences. So this is where I say there's some overlap, but it's like your email, your email sequences, your funnels, you're maybe doing ads. You are selling more passively than showing up on stories every day and things of that nature. So that's the 4 big areas that I have divided in. Like I said, I think a well-rounded strategy for a lot of people, especially once your business grows, is bits and pieces of all of them while still kind of having your main one. Most everyone can fit in those 4. And it's important to acknowledge them because like you said, we don't necessarily think of it that way. And I know for me, when I started my business, I'm like, okay, well, I have to be hosting an opportunity call. Like that's a very popular thing in network marketing, or I have to be showing up this way on social media. And I think it's kind of freeing to know that like you don't have to build your business the same way as other people.
Right. So that makes a lot of sense to me because I obviously lean the podcasting space or having a workshop call, but I also don't like doing sales calls or that kind of setup, but I also geek out on automations. It's interesting.
Well, you have to take the quiz. And see
I will have to. We'll link that in the show notes because I love a good quiz too. Is there a misconception that you see a lot when it comes to lead generation?
Yeah, I will actually say, I'm going to go back to that quiz. Kind of like when you're doing those personality tests, and you're answering, you have to answer, like be really self-aware and answer truthfully for you, not how you think you should be, because then you're going to get a result that's not yours. So that's kind of the misconception with some of the things like I've mentioned earlier with social media. Do you really enjoy it or would you prefer not to do it? And so many times we almost trick ourselves into like, yeah, I do enjoy it. Yeah, it is for me. When like maybe podcasting is way more for me than the social media, piece, or the live events are,
right.
or I really want to do the live events, but I'm really nervous too. I'm nervous to put myself out there. So I'm not going to even give that a try. I'm not even going to see if that's my zone of genius because I'm so much more comfortable doing something else. Those would be the 2 things to me that I see most commonly with people when they're coming to me like, okay, what's my strategy and what's falling flat?
That's a really good point of doing what you think you should or answering how you think you should, because so many people in my network, and maybe you do too, we attract who we are. They come from network marketing. And so then we had the checklist, the Beachbody tracker. It was like every single day. Did you get on your stories? Did you make a post? This, and this. So it wasn't really like I was thinking about, do I like this? How does this feel? It was just like I needed to check the box. So I love that point in general of stop the box checking and figure out what fits you best and how we can make a strategy. So when someone figures out what their main one is, how do they then use that as a superpower or their next steps or planning?
I encourage people to go all in on that one area for the next 60 to 90 days. So if yours is email marketing, we're going to make a really great email at least once a week out to our audience. And the social and the automate and other things can go to the back burner. I'm not saying you can't do them, but let's make your area, your zone of genius, really your focus to see what we can really milk out of it, what sort of data we can get from it, what sort of tweaks, learn if we really even like it. I've had some people who have taken the quiz and got a type and then they do it again like 6 months later and they get a second type, which I also say everyone has their main area and then they're almost like a sub category that they excel in as well. But it's kind of like anything in business, right? Give it the good, solid try for that 60 to 90 days minimum to see what kind of results you can get from it and then go from there. See what happens next.
Okay, that makes sense. And is there a missing piece or a mistake you see a lot of coaches, service providers when it comes to lead gen?
Yes, the lack of consistency would be one. And then stopping too short. So I know people who have done, let's just do the live events as an example, and they've done maybe a workshop and maybe no one came to it. So they didn't even bother to record it. They just hopped off the Zoom, said no one's interested, kind of gave up. Then I have other people I know who that's happened to. No one came to it. They recorded it as if there were 50 people on the Zoom, sent the recording out anyway to the people who had signed up, or they keep it for later and they get the feedback from it if there is any feedback to go. And then they tweak it. They tweak their messaging. They tweak the emails. They say, hey, maybe I just need to promote this a little bit more. And then they run it again next month. So when you think of those two people as an example, logically, which one is going to get the better results in the long run? The person who didn't give up is doing it again, is still recording, still showing up. It's almost like that as if mentality. Like we're showing up as if we are already that successful next level version of ourselves, even if we're not there yet. And that's the biggest thing that I see with people is getting discouraged when you start comparing yourself to other people, where other people are at in their journey. You know, I've had clients say, well, you know, you get whatever, 200, 300, 400 people sign up for your events and you do it. I'm like, yeah. And I've been doing this since 2016. This is a big difference than you who are, you know, you're doing your first workshop this week. So that comparison thing is another thing that I see a lot, where the blinders got to be on and you've got to stay in your lane and just know that if you're consistent, if you have some intentionality behind your work and you have good, solid transformation that you're providing people, your people are going to show up in the end.
That's a good point. It makes me think of clients that I work with in guesting on podcasts and thinking that they can't speak on a podcast yet because they don't see themselves as that person yet, or they don't have X amount of clients yet. That comparison piece, but just knowing that there's value in recording that class you were going to give anyways, and getting on the podcast and speaking and telling your own story too, because we forget that we got ourselves here. So we have that to share too, even if we don't have clients to share. But also I always go back to that there's people for all of us. There's people that are going to relate better to you where you're at and me where I'm at. And so that's just the beauty of entrepreneurship. But there's room for everybody.
Well, and thinking too of what are those little activities that you can do to build confidence? Because if you get off that Zoom and you don't record that, that training, well, then the next time when there's a room of 50, you are going to show up and maybe you're going to be nervous and stumble over your words. But if you already ran it through one time when there was no one watching, like, let's build these little things to, again, build up our confidence, show people that we are an expert in these. Maybe it's going live, maybe it's just talking in your stories, whatever you need to do to start showing up in that way. And that's how we end up getting results in the long run.
Exactly. It's the putting the reps in. It's letting yourself put those reps in. And then going back a little bit, you had said consistency too was the first thing you said about that question. And that's such a common thing that, again, how many podcasts should I be guessing on? How often should I put out a podcast episode? Or for you, like, how often do I do X, Y, and Z? What's your take on that consistency question? How often, or what is consistency, and how much does it matter?
Well, I'm sure you saw the same thing in Beachbody. And this was the first thing, I think, like business strategy wise, that I caught on to. If I show up and put in the reps and I do the things that are proven to work, I will see the results. And if I don't, then I won't, So actually my first product was a planner and tracker. It was a digital planner and tracker where you could go in and basically have your own little power hour and write your tasks and all this stuff, because I really saw the results from consistency really early. So that's one of the things that I would challenge you if you're listening and you're like, I haven't gotten consistent yet, or I don't have that confidence yet, or a big one I hear too from clients, and I'm sure you do too, is, like my spouse isn't supportive. And, what do I do about that? And it really brings people down. And one of the best pieces of advice I heard from someone else, because I'm not married, just disclaimer, was that, and this was coming from a spouse. And he said, I really started taking my wife's business seriously when I saw her showing up consistently, acting like a business owner, and then getting those results. And I was like, man, that is kind of mind blowing to me. Like, prove to people that you are what you say you are and you are doing what you say you are, and show them that. Don't just say you're doing it, but show them that. And so that consistency piece, I think there's a difference between consistency and constantly. Like, you don't have to be constantly working your business, especially with the right systems, especially when you figure out your lead gen style and you really hone in on like your zone of genius. And you get to decide what that looks like. Maybe it's that once a week email. That's you showing up consistently. If your audience is getting used to 2 posts a day, like I post twice a day, Monday through Friday, that is my consistency where I am showing up for my audience. So you get to decide that rhythm, and just know that depending on what it is, if it is social media or like Pinterest or things like that, the algorithm does favor when you post more. Keep that in mind, but also, we do what we can. Especially if you are a solopreneur, I don't expect you to be showing up 15 times a day online. for example.
Right.
You know? So do what you can as well, and thinking about that in your systems. And that's where the systems come into play with some of this as well. Training your audience of what that looks like for you will help you to show up that way.
I love the clarification there, because seeing the results from doing that tracker is exactly why I religiously followed that thing for years, because it literally worked. But it's also then 4 or 5 years in how I ended up so burnt out, you know?
Yeah.
But I wasn't in a personal development type state where I was recognizing that or reflecting that I was constantly working 7 days a week, no matter what, sick, rain, shine, kids up all night, doesn't matter. And so learning that lesson is a great one to learn early. I'm glad you clarified that.
I've been there too with the burnout. And honestly, the burnout is what ended up causing my brand with like the Disney, because I'm like, I've got to bring more fun into this. How can I make this more fun? And I'm such a creative person. So I made my princess planner and everything that was princess themed, and all this stuff came through. And some people hated it. And I'm like, okay, that's fine, whatever. It's not for you, it's for me. And then some people really loved it. And for me, that was my way to show up and keep things fresh and fun and new, and avoid that burnout a little bit too.
Exactly. Like bringing some joy back in, bringing some fun back in, because if we don't have that, then we're not going to last.
No. And why do you want to do a business if it's not fun?
Exactly. Most of us started one or left a 9-to-5 or have a side biz because we were looking for more, and we were looking for that spark again, or ourselves again. So if you don't have that, it's not good. So you touched on systems. What kind of systems, your best advice, best tip that you use along with making sure lead generation is really smooth?
It definitely varies by business. I mean, if I was to sit here and to try to explain my systems now to some people, it would just be like over there.
Right.
I've built them over time, you know? So email automation, I'm a huge fan of. Just giving an example, I'm also a travel advisor, and I work with a lot of travel advisors. So one thing that we can automate really easy is I have a whole workflow that once I add a tag that a client has booked a cruise, for example, 130 days before their trip, they get this email. 100 days before they get this email. They get an email to remind them to check in. Those have come over time of building, but what are those emails, for example, that you are sending over and over again that you don't have to, you know, rewrite or go back in your files and copy it and paste it to a new client. So anything where I can save time like that and avoid any sort of repetition, I like to do. Same thing with social media posts, for example. I actually just started using a site called smarterq.com. It's a social media scheduler, but the thing that I love about it is then what you can choose. And if you want a post to go in like a vault, it can go in the vault, and then it will just automatically republish stuff for you. And then you can click to have it like come up with a different caption, or so it's a nice way to repurpose. I like to repurpose content in any way that I can, which I know you do with your podcast too. You know, we're taking the podcast and we're using it to write emails and things. So those sorts of workflows, and if this is not your zone of genius, you know, reach out to a coach to help with this flow and what this could look like. But I like to squeeze all of the juice out of stuff that I can so that I can save my energy and my like mental wellness for other things.
Definitely. And there's always someone that does have that as their zone of genius. We think they're not out there, but they definitely are. I just had someone help me. I thought I was good at Flowdesk and email automations, and she was a guest at my podcast, and I was like, wait, I don't know about that. So she reworked some things with mine that just made it even more seamless, and made sure that people, you know, they give the right tags and automatically remove them from the sequence. Just stuff like that, where it's like another layer. Because I would hate for someone to get like 10 emails from me at once because they're in the wrong things or they're in a flow, and I'm sending, you know, general emails. So anyways, somebody geeks out and loves what you don't.
100%. So, I am in the process of switching my website and everything from Kajabi over back to WordPress, which is a total nightmare. 10 out of 10 do not recommend, but it will be worth it in the long run. And I am switching my email back to Flowdesk. So I've been playing around with Flowdesk the last 2 days. I used Flowdesk when I first started in 2016, but then when I went to Kajabi in 2020, I stopped. I'm going back, and it's like getting all the cobwebs out of there and remembering all these things. And now that you said about tags, I need to go back and make sure my tags are set up right.
Yeah. And somebody is just so good at them, and it's going to take them a second, and it's always well worth your dollar to
Oh, for sure.
invest, because also then I look at it as a great energetic exchange of money because you're supporting another female solopreneur's business, and it's fantastic.
Absolutely.
One thing I do want to ask you, podcaster to podcaster, you are over 400 episodes of your podcast.
Yeah.
When this airs, I will have just hit 200 for mine.
Nice. Congratulations.
Thank you. What have you learned from that? What's your biggest takeaway? Because that's a lot of reps.
You know, it's so funny because when I started it, I waited to start it for like 6 months because I was so afraid I'd have nothing to say.
I
was just like laughing. And so I'm like, I don't know if like this means that I'm really full of myself because I do have stuff to say. It's just the things that bring you joy in your business and your life. I just really enjoy my podcast. I enjoy it. It is a place for me to share, and I feel like the right people are going to be the ones who hear it. And some weeks that's a lot of people, and some weeks it's not as many. And I'm like, you know what? It's just not their time. I've had some really great clients come from the podcast. I know it's nurturing people, and I love guesting too, like, and having like people like you on my show and meeting the guests and the community and the network I've formed that way. My podcast guests have become some of my biggest allies in the business world. So even that, you know, if you're listening, I'm sure if you're listening to this, you are interested in guesting as well. Just do it. Put yourself out there, do it. The worst people will say is no. And if they say no, it wasn't that time, you know, it wasn't the right time. And you'll find the right people that you need to find.
Okay, you're touching on some mindset pieces there that we need to have when we start to put ourselves out there, when we do podcasts. And if we want to be successful, we need to do that. What's your favorite bit of mindset work?
That's so good because I feel like I do so many little mindset things throughout the day. One of my big ones that I am really enjoying currently is EFT tapping and doing tapping around different affirmations. And a lot of them are about making more money, but the making more money is like the end goal. So it's being open to the way that you get there. So not to get too woo-woo in that, but I've been doing that.
I love some good woo.
Okay. Also, I think if we're going down the woo-woo piece, what we put out there is what we get back. So if you're wanting people to say yes to you, to get you on their show, where can you give back to your community or to people, you know, in your atmosphere in some sort of way? Basically telling the universe that you're ready for that, you know, whatever that is for you, that you're ready for that, you're open to receiving, and that you're giving and you're putting that same kind of energy out there. If you're still nervous about it, like I mentioned already, start doing some stories, start going live. Position yourself as that expert because you are more of an expert than 98% of the people out there watching your stuff and whatever it is that you are passionate about. So share it, even if you are not getting the feedback from people. Maybe they're not commenting, maybe they're not engaging. I guarantee people are still, you would not believe the people who are like, oh, I listened to your podcast. I'm like, I had no idea you even listen to podcasts, you know, or I've been listening for 4 years. I'm like, what? You've not replied to a single email. People are watching all the time, and it's going back into owning that big presence that you are, I think is just so important.
Yep.
Finding the people, whether it's through guesting, whether it's in a mentorship or a membership program, or, you know, I have a really great community. We go to a workshop every October. Sometimes it's the end of September down in Orlando. And I've been going the last 4 years. I have a community of people from there that I can bounce ideas off of, that we can lift each other up. We can cheer each other on. So start filling your feed with some of those people as well. I know some people will tell you don't follow other entrepreneurs or don't follow other people in your industry. Hey, if they're going to cheer you on and they're going to hype you up, as long as you're not comparing yourself to them and it's becoming a bad thing, do it. Surround yourself with those people too. That really helps.
I definitely agree with that. And you'll know if it's making you feel good or bad, and if it's making you compare or not. And those are the only ones you want to make sure you unfollow. I remember definitely coaches in the Beachbody days. Mm-hmm. There was some you could follow and you were like so inspired and you loved it. Yeah. And then there was some and they were amazing, but like instant comparisonitis. I literally think nothing I do is good enough when I watch your stuff. Then you also know you have some mindset work and some personal development to work on. But for the time being, hit unfollow.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I do that with people all the time. It's funny. I've done it with coaches that I've worked with after I'm done working with them, and then I'll like follow them again and maybe work with them again. You know, it goes in seasons, but you got to do what you can do to protect your peace. Do you know Trent Shelton? Do you follow his stuff?
Yes.
He's got a podcast. Yeah. It's great for mindset. If you like the hype up in your face kind of energy, like he's a good one. Ed Milet's a good one that I like to listen to. I
liked him too.
Oh my gosh, she's the woman. Jamie Kern Lima, Rachel Hollis. kind of making a comeback. I know she really made people really mad with network marketing stuff. I listen to her podcast from time to time. Finding those podcasts too that, I love a good business podcast, but some days I'm like, I just need like a mindset podcast. So I'll go to like those 4 and look through and find one that like really speaks to me. And I'm like, okay, we're listening to this one today. And
that's a good point.
Listening to nothing is better too. Like sometimes you just need to be with yourself.
That's a great point, to start to learn what you need or pay attention to what you need. Mm-hmm. That's huge. In the beginning, I never even thought about myself or what I need. It was just like, what's the next to-do list? But finding those moments to really check in, what do I need? And if it is a pump up, if it is, and then just honoring it, man, it just goes a long way. So I appreciate that message.
Self-awareness is a big thing. Probably the past 2 to 3 years of my business that has really helped me a lot. Helped me with the burnout, helped me with the comparison. Just being really, really honest. Who am I triggered by? Yeah. Who am I comparing myself to? What do I really need to be doing right now? Do I really need to be spending time on this? Can I really afford doing that? All these questions and asking yourself and getting really clear, because you know all the answers. I think that's another thing too, is reminding yourself, like you might want some accountability, someone might want someone to bounce ideas off of, but deep down, the next best step. It's just, you got to do it.
Exactly. So we've covered a lot. Is there anything that we didn't mention with lead gen, mindset, whatever, we've gone all over, that you want to make sure we touch on?
I'll just share one. So right now I'm having really fun on TikTok, and I didn't think I would be, and I'm not doing it directly for my business coaching. I'm doing more like Disney travel kinds of things or other travel kinds of things. And I'm building connections with people over there. So the other thing with the lead gen is a strategy is great. And maybe you want a platform where you just have fun and you're building up more like a personal brand and you're allowed to be yourself and do something different. Allow yourself to do that. It doesn't always have to be by the book. It doesn't always have to be money making. If you have a little wiggle room and a little time and you want something to recharge you, try something else just for fun and see what happens.
That's a great point. We don't even think about it. We're just so locked in that if we're on social media, it's got to be for business. It got to be for growth. And that's just a good point. Bring the fun back.
I was doing the business for a while and my account really wasn't growing. And I was like, well, let me just because the people that I'm attracting a lot of times, they know I'm into Disney. I'm doing the business retreat and it's a Disney and all those things. So I'm like, why don't I just make some content around Disney? So don't be afraid to let your freak flag fly, as they say, and do something a little fun and see what kind of people come into your realm.
Exactly. So you mentioned the quiz. I'm going to link that in the show notes. Tell us what are our next steps or where we can connect with you after this.
So lindsay.dollinger.com/quiz. I'm Lindsay Dollinger on all of the platforms. If you want to follow me and connect over there, I would love to. And then, like Candace said, my podcast is Passports, Profits, and Pixie Dust. I love alliteration and things, guys. So everything that I do pretty much is alliterated all the way across. So that's how, you can connect.
That's the teacher in you, because I love that too.
Yes.
Thanks so much for being here. I'm just really excited to connect with you and see what 2026 brings. And on that note, is there anything coming up that you are really excited about for 2026 in business?
So I am restructuring a little bit the social sales studio, which is like my main way that people have been working with me this year. And actually no one knows this yet because it's yet to go live. So you're hearing first here. But I'm having 3 tiers. So I have like the Pixie Dust tier. That's like the minimum tier. Then the Princess tier, which is the normal one that we've been doing. And then the Queen tier is going to be my mastermind. So that is going to be opening. It's looking a little bit different than it has the past 3 years. I'm excited about the shifts. And I'm planning a Disney business retreat again. So stay tuned if that sounds like your jam. Make sure you're on my email list so you can hear about that. So that's what I'm excited about.
Well, thanks so much for being on. This was great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, before you go, if you've ever wished podcast guesting or hosting felt a little easier, you're going to love this. I started a free podcast matchmaking community where hosts and guests can actually connect, swap shows, and find aligned conversations without all the cold pitching and chaos. It's totally free, it's super fun, and it's growing every day. So whether you're looking to grow your audience, get in front of the right people, or just finally get your message out there, come join us. You can find the link in the show notes to join the community.